Development and Finance Committee meeting of the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County for March 25th, 2025. I am Commissioner Jeff Merkowitz. With me today is also Commissioner Robin Solomon, and new to the committee and new to the commission, I want to welcome Commissioner Jonathan Miller. Also want to take a moment to quickly thank our chair, Roy Priest, who has rotated off of the committee for his time. Thank him for his time on the committee, but I'm sure he is greatly relieved to have some additional time for all his other duties as chair. The first, we also have with us President Chelsea Andrews and Vice President Karine Brown and other HOC staff. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from our February 28th committee meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I will second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The motion is approved. Moving on, we have a item before us on the acceptance or approval of acceptance of payment or alternative placement of required MPDUs. I will turn it over to President Chelsea Andrews to discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and the HOC team, as well as members of the public. This item comes before the commission as a request. It's one that we have brought before the commission in the past as it pertains to working with our county partners to ensure that affordable housing is provided with each new development. And Nihar, our Vice President of Real Estate, has done a great job of negotiating the terms for the acceptance of these MPDUs, creating additional flexibility for us that he will discuss in his presentation. So I turn it over to Nihar.
Thank you, President Andrews, and good morning, commissioners. For the record, I am Nihar Shah, Vice President of Real Estate at HOC. And today I'd like to discuss the fourth alternate placement of MPDUs request to another site within Montgomery County. So this request was brought to us by DHCA and also Experience Senior Living. They are a senior housing, independent living, memory care living, assisted living developer based out of Denver, Colorado. And they are partnering with the master developer at the larger master plan community, which will be at Grosvenor Strathmore Red Line Station, which is on WMATA land. And so this is going to be a 239 unit community comprising of 129 independent living units and 110 assisted living and memory care beds. Because this is a new construction, it is required to comply with Montgomery County's moderately priced dwelling unit program, or MPDUs. In this case, about 15% of all units need to have MPDUs. However, assisted living units and memory care units are exempt from this requirement. So 129 units will require about 15% of MPDUs, so about 21 units in total. Though unit rents under the MPDU program would be affordable at the 65 to 70% AMI range, Experience Senior Living will charge service and amenity fees to the independent living units that are multiple times the MPDU rents, nearly 2.5 times more than what a standard MPDU rent would cost. And so this creates an issue where while you can pay for the actual rent, the additional surcharge and for the amenity fees are unaffordable. And so in these cases, Chapter 25A, 5B of the Code of Montgomery County Regulations, the DHCA has provided, allows for an alternate placement of these MPDUs. And so we have working, staff of HOC have been working with ESL, DHCA, and have arrived at a proposed alternate replacement for these 21 units for a payment in aggregate of about $2,925,960. So 15 of these units will be placed in high income census tracts within the county, and the remaining 5 will be in a neighboring area within the submarket of Strathmore-Grosvenor. And we have highlighted here Grosvenor Place condos for those 6 places. And as President.
Sorry, Nihar, did you mean 16 will be placed? You said 15, there's 21 total?
My apologies, yes, 16 and 5, yeah.
Okay.
So those 5 would be placed within Grosvenor Place condos that HOC already owns, and the majority of those units are already vacant. And as President Andrews mentioned, these are going to be the payment and the use of this is going to be slightly different as it relates to the WMATA pilot program, which I'll go and discuss in the next slide, please.
Can I ask a question there? Because I just want to make sure I didn't miss it. So of the 21 units, we already know 5 are going to be in this other buildings in this development?
That's correct. Yes.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So this is the overview of the property and the payment. So what you see here on the map in the yellow circle is Lot 5, or what the developer is calling the reserve. And the blue circle is the HOC property where the 5 pilots MPDU will be placed. So really close to the metro site within the same submarket. And as you can see from this breakout here, the average service fee or amenity fee would be about $4,700 per unit per month for those 129 independent living units, thus making the MPDU within those 129 units unaffordable. If you scroll down a little bit, please, you can see the table here where we highlighted the unit breakdown. So 11 of those 21 units will be categorized for 2 bedrooms. 5 will be 1 bedrooms, and then the 5 are within the WMATA pilot program. So the WMATA pilot program is part of the new county code in that if you are to build, you meaning the developer, are to build a high-rise residential tower, which is defined as 8 stories or more, you have the ability to have a property tax abatement for 15 years. And so because of this discrepancy related to the price, we negotiated a higher placement premium on those 5 units at a 48% increase at about $185,000 a unit compared to the typical $125,000 and change for the remaining 16 units. The difference.
Can I ask another question? I mean, and this is, and I apologize for my ignorance here. So this WMATA, this 15-year tax abatement, do developers have to do NPDU regardless of where they're developing, right?
Yes.
So what does the county or the public get for that 15-year tax abatement?
So that,
yeah,
so that is an agreement that WMATA, as a quasi-government agency, agreed to with Montgomery County, where in order to drive additional ridership to the metro and also create more of a placemaking experience within metro site and transit-oriented development, the county agreed that any residential development on WMATA land would create a 15-year tax abatement for that property. So that is completely separate from.
No, I know that has nothing to do with us. I just have to say, I imagine the demand for these properties is pretty high. I imagine the demand for the residences is high, I guess we'll see. And the property is high. I'm not sure how much of an incentive you had to give private developers to build here and get that, but that's neither here nor there for our purposes.
It does seem, and I was going to ask about this later, but Jonathan, it's a good point about like what the county's getting at. The only real difference I was noticing was like maybe the 25% of units that need to be at 50% AMI instead of the regular MPDU level of around 65%, I think. But is that fair to say that that's the main difference between otherwise just doing a the regular 15% requirement for MPDUs?
So for the pilot MPD alternate placement, this is going to be the first one in the county. So for us, what it means is that for the first 15 years, these 5 units will be at a 50% AMI requirement. And then it reverts back to the standard MPDU AMI, which is around 65 to 70% AMI for the remaining 84 years. Whereas the 16 units will be at the AMI of 65 to 70% for the duration of the program. And so staff had created some analysis and backed into the net present value, and we negotiated a higher premium, as I mentioned previously. So these 5 MPDU units have a price of an aggregate of $925,000, whereas the remaining are going to be closer to $2 million.
And the higher premium is because they're at 50% instead of 65 or 70?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this alt placement strategy differs from the other 3 that have been previously approved by the commission, in that these WMATA pilot MPDUs payments need to be placed before the first deliveries of Lot 5 or the reserve. So in the next 2 years, they are planning to break ground here this spring. But we have the ability, HOC has the ability to use this $925,000 for pre-development work for HOC projects in the pipeline. So rather than using some of our other capital sources to drive pre-development and entitlement and design costs, we would be able to use the $925,000 for that. The remaining money would be placed into escrow and would be used, the interest of that would be used for the bridge program. And then the actual principal on it would be used to finance construction of HOC properties. So next slide, please. This slide summarizes the placement agreement. As we previously discussed, we had the option to place these units, whether in a new construction that HOC will be building from ground up, or an acquisition. Because the Grosvenor Strathmore submarket is in a high income census tract, which is shaded here in gray on the map here on the right hand side. HOC will also be required to place these MPDUs in a similar submarket, so anywhere that is shaded gray. If you recall, previous alt placement strategies were focused in on the Bethesda submarket because that was a high priority area for the county. However, we feel that there are other areas that we can be moving the MPDUs to, where we also have additional projects in the pipeline.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. I know we'll be talking about this at the appropriate time. I just, again, looking at the census tracts here, and I know President Andrews, you've said this a number of times, putting the MPDUs near transportation strikes me as really important. and public transportation, I mean, and a lot of the areas covered by these this gray shading probably doesn't provide that. Just worth thinking about.
There are of course, we want transportation, but the way that the county has also addressed some transportation gaps are pretty significant bus hubs. For example, the development across from Cider Mill, there'll be a huge.
Thank you. So for this fourth alternate placement agreement, the schedule is as follows. So the $925,000. So for the 5 WMATA pilot MPDUs, that and the first 50% of the remaining payments for the 16 units will be sent into escrow and our money market account as soon as the private developer closes with their construction financing, which is going to be in late April. So we will be able to obtain about $1,925,480 in our money market account, of which we would be able to use the $925,000 immediately for any pre-development work for one of our HOC approved projects in the pipeline. The remaining $1 million will sit in the money market account collecting interest, and that interest will be used for the bridge program that the agency has.
Pardon me, Nihar. Let me hop in really quickly here. And I just want to reemphasize this is a great improvement in our negotiations, being able to leverage this resource for pre-development funding, and will give relief to the OHRF that we've had to go to for our pre-development funding in the past. So this is definitely a great improvement in regards to that negotiation. And the commission will hear more about the launch of Bridge in the next cycle. We will be coming before the commission in regards to that new initiative from our strategic plan related to a direct cash benefit for our voucher holders. So stay tuned, but that's also a creative way in which we're leveraging this resource. Thank you, and sorry for the disruption. Back to you, Nihar.
Thank you for that clarification, President Anders. And so what that means is that the remaining payment, the remaining $1,480,000 or $480, pardon me, will be sent to us by the developer before they receive their first use and occupancy permit. So that will stagger about a year and a half to 2 years. And in the interim, we will still be collecting interest on our first $1 million. And then the priority would be to use the principal of that for the construction of any of our projects within the gray shaded area here that you see in the map. Next slide, please. So in summary, we would like for the Development Finance Committee to consider to support staff's recommendation to advance this matter to the Commission to approve for the acceptance of payment for the alternate replacements of the required MPDUs for the reserve at Strathmore or Lot 5 of the Strathmore-Grosvenor Master Plan. And the provision of the corresponding MPDUs at HOC properties. There is no anticipated impact to the fiscal year budget. As I previously mentioned, the interest of this payment will be used to enhance the bridge program, and the actual principal will help to pay for the construction of the HOC projects to lessen the burden of other capital sources that the Commission uses. The time frame currently is to have this discussion today with you all and for the formal action in open session with the Commission on April 2nd. Staff does recommend that the Development and Finance Committee join staff's recommendation that the Commission approve the acceptance for these alternate replacements for MPDUs and also within and use the pilot MPD programs for pre-development work for HOC development pipeline. be happy to address any further questions you may have.
So just a kind of a quick question and a couple of comments. I guess I was curious, there's a math question. My understanding is that with the WMATA pilot, at least 25% of the units have to be at 50% AMI. 5 out of 21 is close to 25%, but a little under. I was just curious, was there a reason it wasn't 6 units instead of 5? I always want to eke out everything we can get.
Yeah, so the actual quantity of the MPDUs and the placement was discussed with DHCA and the developer. We as staff came in at the latter part on right sizing the actual payment of it.
So I'm not sure I follow.
The county negotiates and comes up with an agreement with the developer. The agreement with us focuses in on how we will leverage that resource.
Okay.
Yes.
So the county decided to allow 5 instead of pushing for 6 with that. Okay.
Can I
Right,
follow,
well,
can I have a follow-up on that, Jeff?
Yeah, sure.
And then, so I just want to make, so is it the WMATA program that requires the MPDUs to be at 50% AMI, or is that negotiated case by case?
The WMATA pilot program requires the 50% AMI for 15 years.
Okay, so, all right, so they do get a little bit. I didn't realize that. So I withdraw my earlier criticism of WMATA on this.
No, I think it's always great when we're able to take advantage of these opportunities. And kudos to the staff for continuing to negotiate better terms on this. I guess it would be great if I don't know if there's a reason why not, or in the future if we could use all of the payments for the MPDUs, not just the WMATA portion, for to tap into for pre-development. But always great that we've got some additional uses for this now. And the only other comment, as we've discussed before, is that the hope that these MPDUs, these alternative placements, would be additive to any of our projects, so above our normal 30% and not just replacing what we would already plan on doing. And with that, let me see if there are any other questions from the commissioners. I don't know if we lost Commissioner Solomon, or there he is. Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? If not, can I get a motion to support the staff's recommendation and send this to the full committee?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is approved. Let's see. Pursuant to, are there any other items on the agenda before we move to closed session?
No.
No. Okay. Pursuant to section 3-305B and D of the General Provisions article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, I move to adopt the written closing statement dated March 25, 2025, and to adjourn this open session to a closed session to discuss 2 topics. First topic is the possible acquisition of real property located in Gaithersburg, Maryland. HOC must discuss this topic in a closed session to protect its bargaining power and to protect confidential information provided to HOC from a third party. Sections 3-305B3 and 3-305B13 allow this topic to be discussed in closed session. Second topic is the financing of property located in Silver Spring, Maryland. HOC must discuss this topic in closed session to protect a third party's confidential commercial and financial information. Section 3-305B13 allows this topic to be discussed in closed session. If a member of the public that is watching this meeting in real time on YouTube wishes to object to the closed meeting, please comment in the YouTube chat box or contact HOC's General Counsel. Instructions can be found in the Open Meetings Act objection procedures, which is posted on HOC's website. Do I have a second?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now moving into,
Do I exit out and join again?
yeah, there'll be a different Zoom link. So,
Is it a different link?
yeah.
Yes, and you should be able to find it on the calendar. We can make sure we send it to you again, Commissioner Solomon. Thank you.
With that, I will adjourn the open session of this meeting and thank everybody for viewing. So we are now moving into closed session.
Thanks.
Thank you.